Hey, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Catch That. This is your host, Joe Delara, and this episode is once again brought to you by our friends, Props.cash. They're the absolute best in the business for player prop betting. You need their tool. You know those green and red charts. Absolutely instrumental for your betting process. We've got a couple different things there. We've got the actual line that I've been talking about a lot. They also have hit rate, and you can actually check to see what the odds are on the website as well. And you can look at positional hit rate and see how those teams and how those their opponents have fared versus similar players in terms of whether they're giving up rebounds, points, assists, threes, turnovers, what have you. They also have individual stats for where the opponents rank in terms of what they allow for points, rebounds, assists, turnovers. And you can see that plain as day and what they give up for their entire team as well. So those are just a couple of the different factors that they have in Props.cash. Just an absolutely amazing tool. And it's one that I'm using every single day for my process and my betting. And it's something that you guys should too. So for that, we've got a 25% off coupon code for you guys in your first month with Delara25. Put that code in, get 25% off your first month. You're going to get it back because you're going to start winning a little bit more. And those are just roll it into your unit, roll it into your management for the month. And it's more than worth the investment. So producer Corey, how you doing today, man?
Doing pretty well, Joseph. How are you doing?
I would be doing better if you guys have been following the saga of our fantasy football league. Corey handed me an L in the quarterfinals of our fantasy league.
Fuck this clown. You deserved it more than anyone else in our league, and I think our weird listeners would agree with me because of how much of this drama has been spilled out onto this podcast. So
yeah, Corey,
suck it.
Corey did beat me pretty good. Had a variety of different issues there, but it's Lizzie's year. Lizzie dominated the entire time. So I don't know who you play against this week.
Two tight ends, bitch. Could you imagine you ever see me play two tight ends? Can
No,
you believe
well,
it? Hell hath frozen over.
Hey, Corey used to never draft a tight end, so it's we're rooting for Corey in the
Hall
ball league.
I came in with what was it? It was the year where Travis Kelce was the only pick worth taking.
And
I came in with a manila envelope that said secret strategy, and inside just said, do not draft TE.
So yeah, Corey normally forgoes the tight end. It's funny too because I actually did the double tight end strategy in my dynasty league, and I started Sam Laporta and Trey McBride simultaneously. So nice sets of tight ends for the cash
good
stack
tight
guys.
Ends.
Yeah, nice sets. So
we're McBride guys.
Yeah, McBride's nice. Corey started McBride against me, and it was very painful because I was like, I need him in one league, but then not in the other. So that's one of the dangers of playing a lot of leagues. So I hope you guys are doing well that are in it. Unless you are playing against me in my dynasty league. So unless it's Weiss, which I don't know if you listen, I hope you listen, but shout me out in the group chat if you do listen. But fuck you, man, you're going down. So with that though, just a couple programming notes.
Courtesy of the McBride tribe.
Courtesy of McBride. Just a couple programming notes. So this episode is obviously coming out timely the way that we normally do it. Christmas is on Monday. Not to get into like all the producer Corey details here because I don't want to steal his thunder, but basically we've heard that people don't listen to podcasts on Saturdays and Sundays. It doesn't work.
Not this guy, not this producer.
Yeah. So I think we're gonna do, because I want to get you guys Christmas content, and then obviously if you are the type of person that's going to listen to this podcast while driving to have your Christmas Day ham or prime rib or whatever, God bless you. But there are a lot of other people. We have lines out. I'm going to try to put up a pod for a Friday release, so that way you guys can get my Christmas Day best bets. We'll maybe try to get a guest on because there's a lot of football games on too, so maybe a little bit of football, a little bit of and obviously more NBA. And I know they give out some of those cross sport markets, which are, I think, a lot of fun. So I'd like to try I love those. I'd like to try to tap into those as well. So I think there's definitely a little bit of value there. So we'll see what I can do about a guest. I think it will be fun. But I will try to get you guys that episode. But in the meantime, I am going to start you off with not only my best bets for the Wednesday NBA
Joe,
slate.
Before you continue,
yes,
let me sell the holiday episode a little bit more. How
Okay.
many more people are more inclined to listen to their stupid uncle after a couple of beers give his spiel about why you should pick a team based on nothing other than your weird uncle's opinion? Listen for 15 minutes even to Joe's Holiday Spectacular, and you'll at least have a concrete idea that wasn't like, thought up in your crazy uncle's brain because of something he sees in the stars. Like, you'll actually have some real data here. And, the public's probably going to be betting real stupid over the course of those 3 days. Take advantage.
Yeah, take advantage. So, there's a couple different trends we'll talk about, so that way you can kind of go in there, like the Christmas Day unders thing, and like we'll debunk or prove that. So we'll get into all of that. But I am going to start you off with the Knicks and the Bucks over 224.5. This line is just on the move. I don't really understand why this line is here. It's been sitting there since preseason. The 224.5. There's a couple different people that I've seen on it. I've been on it. I logged in the Action app literally 3 weeks ago. So some of you guys might have grabbed it there. The number's just too low. We got two fast-paced teams. The offenses are cooking right now, and no Mitchell Robinson for the Knicks makes a pretty significant difference to their defense. So you can grab that. It's in the market. There's a couple spots in the market at like 228. I'm honestly okay with it. I think the 224 was way off. So I really don't mind a little bit at the 228.5. That's just a little bit of a teaser for the Christmas stuff. We'll get into that cap a little bit more on that day. There's 5 games. We'll try to cap all of them for you. But I do want to talk about this Wednesday NBA slate, which looks to be pretty enticing. There's a lot of really cool games. I want to talk about a couple of them. The first of which is we've got one big game is the Celtics versus the Kings. We have a New York battle between the Knicks and the Nets. We've got a really exciting battle between the Timberwolves visiting the Philadelphia 76ers, little Miami showdown between the Heat and the Magic. And then we also have the Clippers versus the Dallas Mavericks. So those are kind of some of the games that I want to touch on so far. But the first game that I'll start off with the Boston Celtics versus the Sacramento Kings. You can get this line right now. There's a +1 in the market actually at PointsBet. I think that that's going to not last for very long. This basically what happened was Tatum left the game a little bit early. So we're recording this around 11 o'clock p.m. Eastern time right now. And Tatum had left, came back into the game, and the line moved because it's a back-to-back against the Kings. I think the expectation was like, we don't know how serious this is. The line moved towards the Kings a bit. Tatum comes back in. Line's starting to creep back towards the 2.5 that's in the market. So at 2.5, I might stay away, at least for now. But regardless, I still like Boston in the spot. It's a back-to-back. It's a West Coast road trip. The big thing here, though, to me, is we have to see how Tatum's ankle adjusts, right? Whenever these guys, like a lot of times they get taped up, it can swell the next day, like what have you. But I do think that because he came back in this game against the Warriors, that he's so important. Like, I don't think he would have risked it if the injury was too bad. Additionally, Porzingis sat out against the Warriors, so I think that it's much more likely that he plays against Sacramento, given the back-to-back. And it seems like it's a little bit more of an injury management type of thing. So just a couple of those things. But when we look at these two teams in terms of adjusted net rating, Kings obviously better with De'Aaron Fox. But they're kind of in like two separate classes right now. Boston's plus 8.6 in terms of adjusted net rating. The Kings are +1. Which is 14th in adjusted net rating compared to the Celtics at number 1. So I think that these two teams, even with Fox entering back into the lineup, even if we wanted to manually adjust that, even like another +1, it still makes them the 11th ranked team in adjusted net rating, and it would only put them at around +2. So it's definitely a tougher spot. The Kings have also played a tough schedule, so this is even accounting for that. Boston's played one of the toughest schedules in the league. This game against the Warriors, we'll see what happens. See if it how tightly contested it is. Whether they're able to rebound off whether they're winning or whether they lose, and see how they can bounce back against the Kings. But I think that the spread is a little bit too far. I think it's a little bit off based on the instant reaction to the Tatum news. So this pod, depending on where you can kind of consume it, we've been dropping this pod like pretty much within 30 minutes of when we record. So you still might be able to get this line. It's up on YouTube. Obviously, it's up on wherever you can stream it from. Otherwise, where you get your podcasts. So there's plenty of opportunity to grab this. One player prop, though, that I'm looking at in this matchup, especially if Porzingis plays, is Domantas Sabonis. I'm going to be looking at his points, rebounds, maybe his PRA, but I definitely like his PR specifically. And honestly, like his points has been really, really good. Over the last, obviously, these are all different things. Like when I talk about head to head, like there's always like some matchup stuff, whatever. Over the last 7 games against Porzingis, so basically since Sabonis was like a major starter for the Pacers against Porzingis, different matchups, different lineups, different teams, whatever. Most of these games were Pacers versus Dallas. We did have one game last year with the Kings versus the Wizards. Sabonis in the 7 games has had a 20-point double-double in each of those games. And he just on his most recent one had a 20, 15, and 10 triple-double against Porzingis when he was on the Wizards. So he's averaging 22.6 points, 13.4 rebounds, and 7 assists over the stretch. That's a little bit why I'm like hesitant on the A. I want to see where this line really comes out. It's going to be tough to gauge until then. The only other thing that I would indicate or kind of think about though is he's had these monster games against the Boston Celtics as well. So part of that's even with Horford. Last year he had a 16, 13, 12 triple double. He had an 18 to 10 to 6. He had a 30, 20, and 5 on March 18th of 2022. So that's 2 seasons ago. He really dominated in that matchup, and that was with Al Horford and Robert Williams in the lineup. So it's definitely a spot that I'm looking at. I will say in that one game where he really went off with the 30 and 20, De'Aaron Fox did not play. But what I'm trying to say is that I think that this is an opportunity for him to really excel against this Boston front court. I think it's a good matchup for him, regardless of whether Horford's in, whether Porzingis is in. It's been a very good matchup for Sabonis so far in the past, and I don't really see a reason why it couldn't continue in this game. The next play and the next game that I'm looking at is the Timberwolves against the Philadelphia 76ers. The Wolves, guys, like I just keep giving out the Wolves. We keep cashing on the Wolves. It's been pretty successful overall to be betting on the Minnesota Timberwolves this season. I saw a pretty funny meme, and it was like the "Are you winning, son?" and it was the Timberwolves and the Timberwolves logo, and it was just like, "Yeah, Dad, I pretty much win every game now," and that's what Minnesota's doing. So Minnesota on the course of the season, they are 20-5. They're top of the Western Conference. I will say though, Philadelphia actually has a better adjusted net rating. Philadelphia has been dominant so far this season. They're plus 7.5 in adjusted net, number 1 offense in the league, 4th best defense in the league. Compared to Minnesota, they're 4th in adjusted net, plus 5.3, 17th in offense, but 1st in defensive rating. So it's an interesting matchup. I think it's a tough matchup on both sides for not only Gobert and Karl Anthony Towns, but also for Joel Embiid. And just vice versa. It's going to be a big, heavy matchup, right? So I do think that one of the players that I like in this spot is actually Anthony Edwards. Anthony Edwards, his points line is at 26.5. He has exceeded that in 2 of his last 3 games against Philly, one of which was in this year. He scored 31 on November 22nd, and then he had 32 against Philly back on March 7th of 2023. And then the one other game he played against Philly this last season, he had 25. Part of why I like this is even when we're looking at him over the last couple of games, he's coming off a couple of big games. He's coming off a 32 and 37 point game. He had some down games, obviously against the Dallas Mavericks and the Memphis Grizzlies, but a lot of that had to do with Dallas. He played the minutes. Memphis, I think it was the game he got a little bit dinged up, missed some games. He really only played like a couple minutes, like 5 minutes. So you can't really take too much stock into that. So I do think that this is a spot for Anthony Edwards to kind of excel. I think that D'Anthony Melton's a pretty good defensive option for him if if you had to come up with one. But at the end of the day, I think that the offense is going to have to run through Anthony Edwards anyway, just because it's going to be so difficult to score on the interior against Joel Embiid for both Karl-Anthony Towns and Rudy Gobert. So I like Ant to go over the 26.5 points in the spot against the Philadelphia 76ers. From the game as a whole, though, the Wolves are plus 3.5 on the road. It's really an interesting spot because Philly has the 27th ranked strength of schedule in terms of how difficult it is. So they've essentially played an easier schedule. Minnesota's also played a relatively easy schedule. They're at 19th. So neither of these teams has really played like a very tough schedule. The one thing I will say is that Minnesota and Philly have both played weaker offenses. Defensive wise, Minnesota's played tougher defenses. They've actually played the 10th toughest in terms of defensive strength of schedule, whereas Philly's still at 24th. I think it's going to be a very interesting game. I think it's going to be a very tough game. And when we go back to what these teams did against each other in the last game, obviously Minnesota, Anthony Edwards played really well. So we have that in for what we can analyze there, right? Rudy Gobert kind of struggled on the glass a little bit, and I think that that's notable because Minnesota kind of makes their living. They kind of make their living on the glass, like what their rebounds are and like how they can kind of defend the interior. I want to pull up a couple of these stats too. So when we look at this game, Philly lost. Minnesota won at home, 112-99. The biggest thing when we look at the box score, though, is that Philly just could not make a three. They shot 21.9% from three compared to 38.5% for Minnesota. They also only shot 39% from the floor. The biggest issue here was Joel Embiid didn't play. So if Joel Embiid plays that game, maybe this changes the analysis. Maybe it changes the game. I think you have to consider that fact. Whereas Rudy kind of struggled. Karl-Anthony Towns had a decent game. Anthony Edwards obviously went off. But without Joel Embiid in that spot, he's been playing at an MVP level. He kind of plays up to a certain level of competition. But this is going to be one of the toughest games that he's played recently. So I think that's obviously notable. In his history versus Rudy Gobert, he's been a little bit all over the place, but his most recent game last March, he scored 39 points, 7 rebounds, 4 assists. Where he's kind of struggled is he's had a couple strong rebounding games back when Rudy was in Utah, but of late he's had 7, 9, and 9. But in the 2 games that he's played against Rudy while he's been on the Minnesota Timberwolves, Embiid has scored 32 and 39 points. So bring him back into the fold there, I think would be extremely notable, obviously, for Philadelphia, even though I think that this is still a tougher matchup just because of the rebounding strength that Minnesota has overall. My lean is still on Minnesota plus 3.5. I think that Philly's been great this season, but I think Minnesota, in terms of what their advanced metrics are, they've been, even though I think that they're still like a touch underrated here at the 3.5. I think that there's been a lot of narrative around just how good Rudy Gobert, or rather Joel Embiid, has been so far on the season. And that's one of the things that I have a little bit of concern about. Finally, the last point of data that I want to talk about is that Minnesota is 5-0 against the top 10 teams in point differential per cleaning the glass. Whereas if we look at Philadelphia has been good, but Philadelphia is 2-4. So they're 13th in terms of what their point differential is in those matchups, but Minnesota has dominated. They're 5-0 plus 12.4 in terms of their point differential. So that's generally why I lean Minnesota. I might want to betting Minnesota here too, but you'll see that in the action app. I think it's a little bit early for me. The next game that I did want to touch on is the Los Angeles Clippers versus the Dallas Mavericks. I'm going to have a game guide out for this for the Action Network. This is a spot where the Mavericks injury report is pretty significant. They're going to continue to be without Kyrie Irving. They have also listed Derek Lively the second due to his ankle injury. He's going to be out. Maxi Kleba will not be playing either. His toe is out, and Josh Green is also been ruled out due to an elbow injury. So when we look at that compared to what we're seeing in LA, where they're really, Paul George is listed as questionable due to an illness, but aside from him, the majority of their primary rotation has been playing. James Harden is playing excellent lately. Kawhi Leonard is playing on an absolute another planet. That dude looks like a robot. And this spread to me is I don't understand. I don't get it. I think that Dallas has been good on the season. They're 16-10. They are 15th in adjusted net rating. They have the fourth best offense in the league, but they have the 25th ranked defense in the league. Whereas when we look at the Los Angeles Clippers, they struggled when they got James Harden, but since then, it's just been all gas. And they are 16-10 on the season, so the same record. But in terms of their adjusted net rating, they're plus 3.7, which is the sixth best mark in the league. And they have a 116.5 offensive rating, adjusted offensive rating, and a 112.6 or 0.9 defensive rating. The Clippers have been much better of late. And when we look at some of these lineups that they're running, the biggest thing is that they kind of removed Russell Westbrook from the rotation. So you're not seeing overlap between him and James Harden. When you're able to split the two of them off the floor, the Clippers net rating kind of jumps. They're a plus 17.4 with Harden on the floor and Russell Westbrook off the floor, which is just an absolutely staggering number. And when we insert Kawhi Leonard into the equation, we're still that plus 17.4. So you see kind of where these lineups are making sense. You can see that the lineups with Harden, Paul George, and Kawhi, but mostly James Harden and Kawhi, have really, really excelled. And when they do get that big three, and I've kind of chose to exclude Paul George at first due to the injury report, when they do have the three of them on the floor, plus 20.3. That's just a mind-numbing number. So I'm going to be looking at the Clippers in this game. 2.5 is just way too short. I see some 3.5s out there. I'd be comfortable with either. And I know that the big narrative has been Luka Doncic versus the Clippers. And when Luka plays the Clippers, he's been incredible, right? So over the last couple of seasons and really throughout his career, he has just decimated them. He's averaging 33.1 points, 8.5 rebounds, and 8.3 assists in his in his 30 games against the Clippers throughout his career. And when you look at his last 10 games, he's been just as good. Over his last 10, he's actually been better. 37.8 points, 8.9 rebounds, and 7.4 assists. Some of these numbers are insane. He scored 30 points in all but two games, one miss at 26, or two misses at 29 and one at 26. So over 30 and 7 of 10. And he's got 40-point games in 5 of the 10. So the dude's been absolutely mind-numbingly good. But I think that it's a little bit more difficult when you add in Paul George, Kawhi Leonard, and James Harden into the mix. I think that the turnovers could kind of go crazy for Luka. He's averaging 4.4 in this matchup. So that's definitely a spot that I'll be looking to maybe try to back or, fade Luka in what I think could be a really, really high usage game for him without Kyrie Irving in this spot. So that's kind of the way that I'm capping the slate. The only other game that I think there's two games that I think are interesting. You obviously have the Miami Heat versus the Orlando Magic. I think the Magic are really good. I think the Magic are a bit underrated in the spot. I think they might be a little bit overrated in the spot. They're -5 to Miami is +5. Orlando's at home. Orlando's been 100% better. They're 16-9. Miami is 15-12. So the records kind of indicate that it's a little bit closer than it is. But when we really dive under the hood, both of these teams have had below average offenses on the season. And Miami's defense is about average, but when they've had Bam Adebayo, they've obviously been better. Orlando is third in adjusted defensive rating. So that's really been their bread and butter. My concern here for this game, and normally like I would be hoping for this game to have been closer in terms of the spread, where maybe the market doesn't really adjust, like respect Orlando enough. But in fact, I think we're a little bit too far the other way. And with Tyler Hero coming back, that's obviously instant offense. We saw him play pretty well in his return on Monday, and we saw Jaime Jaquez continue to get good minutes. So I think that this is a very tough matchup for both teams. If I was going to play anything, I'd probably be looking at the under. It's at 219 and it's at 219. It's gone up since the open, but I don't totally buy it given the fact that Miami plays the 25th pace in the league, Orlando plays at the 14th pace in the league, and even though Tyler Hero is back, I don't know if it's necessarily enough in this matchup against Orlando, who has such strong perimeter point of attack defenders and such a strong defensive scheme overall. So I'd kind of be looking at an under. And then when we look at the Knicks versus the Nets, it's basically a pick 'em. Interesting game. New York's defense has been awful, just terrible since Mitchell Robinson got hurt. I think it's a bit of a stay away spot for me. The one guy that I might be continuing to look at, though, Julius Randle's just been absolutely on one. Randle has just been crushing he's been crushing just every stat, right? But he's been having some pretty good games where without Mitchell Robinson. And once again, without Mitchell Robinson this season, he's averaging 27.6 points per game. He's averaging 9.2 rebounds per game and 4.6 assists per game. The biggest thing, though, is that he has not been taking any threes. So his line is set at 1.5. He's made, in the 5 games without Mitch, he's made 1, 2, 1, 0, and 1. And even when we look back over the last couple of games, like he's making 2 in some of them, but there's just not enough volume. So I think even though the under is kind of juiced at minus 135, it's definitely a spot that I would consider, especially because Brooklyn's defense, if they want to throw like Claxton on him, I think makes it a little bit tougher for him to kind of break free just generally in the offense. So I think it'll be a fun game. I'm obviously rooting for the Knicks, but I don't have a lean in any particular direction for the game overall. So with that, that's kind of my cap for the slate. That's what we're looking at on Wednesday. I want to get you guys out of here relatively fast. That way, you can finish this episode, listen through it, and then stay tuned for the Thursday episode or the Friday episode of the Christmas spectacular here. But with that, producer Corey, how you doing today, man?
We're doing great, Joe.
You sound
I don't know why I'm still going to work.
Why are we going to work?
No one's around, man. No
That-
one's around.
I kind of like going to work when nobody's around.
I'm in the middle of a really good book.
Oh, well, if you're trying to work, it depends on if you're trying to it depends on if you're trying to work or not.
There's nothing to do, man.
I wish.
There's just nothing going on right now.
Hey, man,
things
government
are
never
winding down.
sleeps.
Judges are disappearing. Yeah, it's everyone is conveniently like on vacation a week early. So I'm just bothering them.
I think it's because of the Christmas being on a Monday thing. So everybody's like, "Oh, well, this is Christmas week then."
Yeah, because if it was like Wednesday or later, people would at least give a half-ass Monday.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
And then Tuesday, nobody's there, obviously.
Yeah. Everyone's trying to get away with as many extra days this week as possible.
Exactly. So it just is what it is.
But I do have a recommendation.
Hit me.
I just read this book that was phenomenal. Might be my book of the year.
Really?
I got to go through a lot of books. I did a lot of reading this year. A lot of waiting, so leads to a lot of reading. The name of the book is Demon Copperhead by Barbara Kingslover. It was fucking awesome. It's about a loser who's growing up in Appalachia, and I pronounced that correctly. Thank you for everybody who cares.
That was pretty good,
And
actually.
he's like doomed to be a just another pillhead from the mountains in a former coal town. And it's just the way that it's set up where it's like, yeah, I had no choice. Like, this was me regardless is incredible. The way it's written is fucking awesome. Can't recommend it enough. It's a fucking door stopper. Heads up. It's long. If you don't like long books, you're a bitch. Get some Adderall, you bitch.
Dude, I
Not that
haven't
I
read a
needed it.
book. I don't think I haven't read a book in so long. Does
Well,
it
you got a
show?
few things on your plate.
Does it show? Like, I read a lot,
No,
but
you
like I
can
don't
hold a
read.
conversation.
Yeah, I just don't read books. I feel
No, it's fine as long as your brain is doing something. I think that's good.
that's fair enough. That's fair enough. So what is the name of this book, and where can you get it?
Demon Copperhead.
It sounds
That's his
like something.
nickname. Yeah.
I, dude, good for
Which
you. How
does
many
remind me, I
pages?
used to bully a kid who was a redhead. I called him a copperhead when we were in high school.
Dude, if
Shout
you
out to Officer Ryan Sticknose. Sorry about that. He is
imagine,
now 6'5" and could kick my ass with his fingers.
imagine bullying somebody in college. Like,
I mean,
well,
I did.
fair. It
He
just
asked
seems
for it.
it seems
He was
funnier.
kissing. You can't kiss a philosophy teacher's ass. Like they can see what you're doing.
Yeah, well, maybe
So it's. I had.
Schrodinger's ass.
Here's the thing. I made Schrodinger's desk. It was a broken desk that I had put back together moderately, and we would find out whether or not it was broken when someone sat in it. Just happened to be where this asshole sat all the time. Except some
Just
loser
every time.
ruined it for me.
It's like, why didn't they just get rid of the
Yeah, somebody
desk?
warned him. They were like, "No, Tom, don't sit there." And I was like, "Oh, shut up! This was an experiment. Fuck
Like,
you."
dude, this was hilarious. Like, nobody's getting hurt.
Yeah, and it would have been really funny. Ugh. But it was fun because the teacher also bullied him, like our professor. He was like,
That's when you know.
Tom, he was an Orthodox Greek priest. He was be like, Tom, why do you try so hard? There's no need. You're not getting it. It's okay. You'll still pass. You don't
And
get
he
it
was a
though.
priest too.
It was incredible.
Yeah,
Yeah, he was a priest just shitting on this guy. It was fucking best.
maybe that was his penance, you know?
That's why I majored in it, because I just kept taking classes with this crazy Greek priest, because he would just make fun of people constantly. It was awesome.
I also took
Next
philosophy
thing I
classes.
knew, I was like, how many credits away from a major?
Yeah,
They're like, yeah, 2 more. I was like, I guess I could do that.
may as well. Yeah, I did a minor in philosophy
And
because it was just halfway there.
it was sheer entertainment. That's the only reason why I did it.
It's fucking perfect.
Just watching, and like he was in his robes all the time. He was a Greek Orthodox priest, and he would just shit talk anybody he didn't like. It was incredible.
He's like, fuck this guy, man. This guy stinks.
Yeah, it was awesome.
I love it.
He
love
he
it.
would not come to class for a couple weeks because he'd have his own little like mental breakdown. Be like, I was thinking too hard about why my cat does not know that it is a cat. Be like, damn man, thanks for canceling class for 2 weeks. We really appreciate it.
Really appreciate that, buddy. That was awesome.
Yeah, don't be a slouch. Go read a thick book.
Go read a
Demon
book.
Copperhead.
Well, appreciate it. Appreciate it. I,
That was a
I'm gonna-
tangent and a half.
that was a wild ride. I am going to recommend what did I have today? I got those little like
It's getting
you know, like,
cold. Do you have soup?
I wanted soup today, but I didn't have it. You know the sesame sticks, like the little ones that can kind of go.
Yes.
Recommending those. So there's a couple different variations of these. There's the really little ones that you can put in a salad, nice in a salad, because they kind of give that like little bit of sesame flavor. Like it's good for like all of a sudden your salad is Asian if you throw those in. Throw those in with like a mandarin orange and
Yeah,
like
what's up with that?
it's crazy. Like that's just in every single one. It's like
That is, I prefer that kind of salad. By
it's a
the way,
great
it's
salad.
delicious.
It's a great salad. So
That orange really sneaks up on you sometimes. And
yeah, and like they put it with it's got the really thin sliced carrots, every single one of them. And then maybe there's probably like a chicken, and then it's like like a ginger something balsamic dressing. So I do like those sesame sticks. I'm gonna say though, the other sesame sticks, the one when they get bigger, they become Italian, I guess. Like they I don't know, they get gentrified or something. So the other
Well,
ones
you know
like
how that happened, right?
what?
There's an
Oh,
actual story behind that.
is there?
Yeah, Italians started finding out that like, oh my god, we didn't create spaghetti. They found out like we were discovered noodles because we were trading, on the Silk Road. Like Asians really
Yeah,
own
japchae, dude.
spaghetti and macaroni, noodles. So they were like, what else are they doing? And they were like, oh, they got these little fucking sticks, these sesame sticks. And they were like, make ours bigger. They're ours, damn it. We lost Christopher Columbus, then we lost noodles. Are you fucking kidding me?
Figure
So
it
that's how
out.
it happened.
So
Yeah.
this is a
Yeah.
perfect conversation then. So so you're making your charcuterie boards for the holidays and stuff, right? I love a good charcuterie board. Put those on your charcuterie board, but also when you go to eat the charcuterie board, could not recommend enough to take one of those bad boys, wrap a little prosciutto around that thing, sprinkle a little balsamic glaze, have a fucking day. Like
Stick
that.
it to Asia.
Yeah, like stick it to Asia. Like I just am like fully
This is our
diving in.
thing.
I'm fully diving into my culture, so I can actually say it's my thing. So no matter which version,
Yeah,
of
you
the Sesame
can. You
Street,
have you're like the battleground.
yeah, like I'm just
Yeah,
in
you
the
can say
middle.
Cosa Nostra and mean it both ways.
I'm the neutral party, I guess.
Yeah,
Is it? I guess
it's
or no.
our
I'm just
thing,
the
no matter
involved.
what you're talking about.
Yeah, I'm the involved party, not even the neutral party. But so I'm gonna
Some would say you're the
recommend.
arbiter here. You could really you could probably give a real
Yeah, I could give a
determination
real.
on the books here.
That's true. I mean, I
If you
always
want, I can bring
associate.
you a book report next episode. Make you make a decision.
This will be a good one. Yeah, we'll think about this one. I do. I also
I would love to see the Anti-Italian Defamation League come after you
about
for
sesame
some
seeds.
findings that you make. Yeah,
Um,
Joseph Delara and Public Enemy #1.
It's like, dude, I'm the authority.
Morons.
Like, what are you doing? I was gonna say there was one other thing that I did. Shop. This isn't an ad. Because it's such a good deal. I went to Shop Rite the other day, and they had a
Hell
deal.
on earth.
So, well, the one by me is like actually decent. Parking lot's a disaster still, but it's decent. The shop, so they had a deal on prime rib, and it's like the bone-in prime rib where it's like it comes in the whole package, and normally it's $12.99 a pound, but they're like 8-pound things, so it's like it's over $100. They had a coupon, or there was like a deal, like there was a flyer, it was on sale. It was $8.99 a pound, so which is already like a pretty good deal. If you had the digital coupon, it was $4.99 a pound. So I got 8 pounds. Corey, I'm gonna show you my meat right. Actually, I'm gonna bring it up for the people that are watching this. I got this.
Watch the YouTube and you can see
Well, you
Joe's
gotta watch
meat.
the YouTube. So I got that. I cut it up myself. I put it in, vacuum sealed them.
Mother of God.
It was $40 for 8 pounds of essentially ribeye, bone-in ribeye. It was
Jesus
awesome.
Christ.
So couldn't
Okay, so
recommend.
you live in a place where you can actually go to that store
Yeah,
and get that deal
yeah. Well, and I
without
think,
having to stab someone's nona.
yeah, like it was awesome. Like I went in there and it was funny because I was looking at it, and Jenna naturally was like,
Did you go on Sunday too, like a fucking freak?
when did I go? It might have been. Actually, might have been on Sunday. I think
Dude,
it was
that's like
on Sunday.
it's like the Thunderdome. It's like all the old Italian ladies get out of mass and they like put their war paint on to go to the Shop Rite, where they just fucking they're just bickering, arguing, smashing their cars into carts and carts into cars.
It was crazy.
It's chaos. I had to collect like money out there, like for Little League and shit as a kid. And it was like the most dangerous thing we could have been doing.
The craziest thing was though,
Stampedes.
like nobody knew,
But it's
nobody
the deals,
realized
man.
this. Nobody knew it was the deal because it
there's
was
so
like,
many other ones.
well,
It's
that
insane. How does a place
but
make money?
dude, I was so confused about the deal. I was like, there's no way this number is right. I was like, there's no fucking way. I got the butcher to come over to tell me that this was the right deal. Like I was like, is this the right thing?
I don't believe this. I'm gonna have to see your butcher.
was like, dude, I don't
Probably
understand.
like a
Like, there's no
17-year-old,
way.
like just got out of high school. He's like, what?
No, but
I
the
don't have
guy,
time to answer your questions. I got to cut this meat and do my homework.
I was so confused. I was like, I don't like it was limit one per person, and I was like, I think I might need to get a bigger one. And then I was like, like I don't know, like I don't think I need that much. Like,
I'm surprised you didn't like go get Jenna and make her go in and do it again.
No, so we've considered the deal is still good. I think until Christmas Eve. So we're
Oh,
debating.
so you will.
I think
do
I'm
it
gonna go
again.
back in. I think I'm gonna go back. They had one. They had one. It was like the thing was
This is how you're gonna, dude. You're gonna become the warlord of Shop Rite by you.
the one.
Like that's how. Like there's a warlord. Like you're gonna be the one who came out on top.
It's gonna be unbelievable. Like the one. They had one there that I was so close. I was so close. It was $280, but I was like, if I'm only paying like 40% of that, it's like $110. I was like, that would feed me.
I love that you
like,
take the same fervor that you have with like placing a bet with you to the grocery store every fucking time you go.
It was plus EV,
You ever just pick
man.
up a toothbrush and leave?
It was plus EV.
Did you ever just pick up what you need and get out of there? The
Not,
numbers crunching
no.
in your head must be
No.
infuriating. How do you sleep at night?
Honestly, like I'm the type of guy that like looks at the price per pound. Like I'm like, this is just a better deal. Like I gotta get that one.
Buddy, I don't look at a number until I'm done ringing myself up.
I like can't help it. I really can't. Like I love the digital coupons. I think
get
it's
yelled
great.
at frequently. Like every time.
Oh,
I
do
come home,
too.
My fiance's like, "Why did you spend this much money?" I'm like,
Oh, I get yelled at
"'Cause I
the
didn't
opposite
want it."
way.
I don't know.
I get yelled at the opposite way. It's like, why do you?
Why were you
care?
gone
Like,
for a day?
It's like 10 cents. Like, what do you give a shit about? I'm like, I just want to have a good deal
Joe,
that
the
I can
garbage has
brag
been
about.
overflowing for 6 hours. You were nowhere to be found.
I just want to brag about a good deal. Like, there's nothing better
I
than
stepped
that.
on this old hag, so she couldn't get the good meat, and I got it.
Well, that was the thing. It was limit one, so I told the other people around me, I was, "This is a great deal." Like, they left. There were
surprised you
prime
said
ribs
anything.
flying out. So, if anybody's listening to this far,
it turned into a riot.
this is. So
Joe got arrested for incitement when he went to the grocery store today.
yeah, like I was just handing out meat. Like, so I'm glad that you guys saw my meat pick.
God.
You guys saw my meat pick on the podcast. Didn't know we were going to get there today. But look,
I can't believe how much analysis went into the pick of the meats.
Look, I think that it's very important that everybody knows that like I treat the meat seriously. Like it's got to be taken care of. Like, so USDA Prime over here.
It has just as much, if not more, analysis than like a futures pick for you.
Yay! Look, it is
like
a futures pick. I froze a couple of them. I vacuum sealed and froze them.
You are correct.
So, like, it basically is a futures pick.
Up.
So look,
Jesus Christ.
It doesn't matter honestly whether you're in the grocery store or you're on a sports book. The main thing is that we're making plus EV decisions, and one of the best ways to make plus EV decisions is to get and download props.cash. 25% off your first month with code DELARA25. You're going to be able to see like, is that hit rate hitting at a much higher rate than what the implied odds are? You're going to need to know. You're going to say like, what is the price per 3-pointer made or per rebound per pound of prime rib? So those are all, well, no, you're not going to get the last thing on props.cash, but you'll get the rest of it. So the main thing is that you sign up, get that first month 25% off with code DELARA25, and let's continue to get that prime rib, get that meat, actually hit your bets so that way you can buy the big ass prime rib. It's a double plus EV decision, and let's cash that.